Ladies and gentlemen, let me first apologize. Before the video even gets started, I am under the weather. Second off, there's going to be some spoilers because this game is relatively new. And third, I'm under the weather. I sound like utter hell. But I need to record this video. I need to get done, so here we go. So, this isn't my first time in River City by any means. I came here for a relaxing time and ended up beating up a bunch of people playing as a few girls. Hey, these girls are tough though, and cracking skulls can be very therapeutic. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to River City. So to give a bit of history, the first time we here in the States actually saw River City, it was an NES game by the name of River City Ransom. Classic beat 'em up, but there weren't many of these games. You know, the River City series. However, in the East, the Kunio-kun series has been running for some time. They star Kunio, a street tough character fighting all sorts of different foes. There are other times Kunio made appearances here in the States, sure, but often under different names. However, River City kind of stuck around for his games. However, while Kunio-kun series was doing okay in Japan, the same company made another arcade series appear here in the West. That game was Double Dragon. Now, Double Dragon was a spiritual successor to a game called Renegade, sure, but Renegade was another Kunio-kun game in disguise. It was also important to bring up Double Dragon here because River City Girls and this sequel has plenty of cameos from Double Dragon characters. So you're probably wondering how Way Forward, the makers of Shantae, and Arc Systems, the makers of Guilty Gear and Blaze Blue, are involved with this game. Well, the original company to develop the games went belly up. And Arc Systems, the game designer, been around a lot longer than I actually thought, believe it or not, developed some games for this series. Yeah, one of the first things the company actually did when they were created was a port of Double Dragon for the Sega Master System. They also worked on the Virtual Console releases on all the Japanese releases for the Kunio-kun and Double Dragon games, and eventually gained all the rights to them. So now Arc Systems owns both series, but what about Way Forward? Well, they developed Double Dragon Neon, so I guess there's that. Overall, when River City Girls was created by Way Forward as more of a comical spin-off of the Kunio-kun / River City series, it was received very well. Having popular YouTubers make music or make up some of the voice cast was actually pretty good and overall worked well with more of the indie space. And now the sequel has more cameos, YouTubers, and beat-em-up action, so let's get this party started. Let's take on River City, Round 2. So I'm going to reiterate, but there's a spoiler warning here. This game is less than a year old. It kind of shadow dropped at the end of 2022 out of nowhere with very little fanfare, honestly. But I'm going to spoil this game rotten, as shameful as that is. I'm also going to be spoiling the ending of the first game too, because they're pretty well connected story-wise. Don't worry though, if you've never played the first game, it's not the end of the world if you start up with the second. But the end of the first game ended with Sabuko, the daughter of the infamous Sabu, was kicked out of a window and defeated by the two main characters. Her brother, Ken, sees this as an opportunity to humiliate her and takes her to see Sabu in prison. While Ken wants his chance to take over, Sabu just kind of breaks out of prison himself. Still, Sabu put Ken in charge of most of these, criminal gang things, and in charge of humiliating and destroying the main girls. Ken buys the entire school they go to and expels them. So the girls and their boyfriends just start playing video games for several months and kind of gets out of shape. After needing a new video game, the team heads to the local mall, only finding Ken again and finally learning why he's actually after them. The team then decides to fight the Yakuza. You might be noticing that I'm referring to them as the team. That's because you can play as their boyfriends as well as the River City Girls. Yeah. Anyway, the team have to collect 3 badges from head Yakuza members to enter the final level. But they have to actually figure out who these badges belong to first. I went to downtown first, so we'll follow that plot first. I'm saying first way too many times. The team learned that Marin basically took this area over. She's from Double Dragon. Tired of getting kidnapped and punched in the gut, she bulked up and ran a shop in the first game. Now she's working for the bad guys. The girls find out she's being brainwashed, though, through magic, so there's that. And they beat Marin in battle to reverse it and basically have her join the team as a playable character. Investigating the forest Marin was in, the gang locate a witch working with Sabu family and manage to defeat her and get a badge. Meanwhile, in Uptown, the team locate Ken at a dance club, only to run into Pruvy, a character from another River City game. She thinks her friend was kidnapped and is beating up Ken's goons as she thinks they had something to do with it. Spoilers, he didn't. Yeah, Pruvy's friend just kind of shows up right after this, but she still joins your little gang. She also reveals that there's a media tycoon that works for the Sabu family too. The group head over beating up some robots and finally manage to find the one in charge of humiliating enemies of Sabu's family through social media. After getting her badge, the group find a restaurant ran by the Sabu family and disguise themselves to get in to see the chef. After beating him up on live TV, the gang make another trip to the school. Wait, why are we back at school? Well, it's to save a bunch of kids from brainwashing because the chef who we basically kicked his teeth in, he made food, it was sent to the school, and it brainwashes everybody who eats it. Yep, that was a sentence I said. After finding Ken and kicking his teeth again, Sabuko, the daughter of Sabu, the final boss from the first game, betrays the girls, yes, she was working with them, and fights them in a helicopter. After that, they've managed to find Sabu deep underground of his own facility, and after beating him in a fight, they all work together to punch him through his own rooftop at the helicopter that his kids are on. Oops. The heroes finally managed to sit down and play that video game they wanted. Yeah, that seemed like a long time ago. So, a few things. The girls, particularly Kyoko. I'm sorry, these are Japanese names and I am horrible at reading and pronunciating Japanese names. So I apologize if I'm getting anything wrong here. But Kyoko is kind of dumb. I mean, they're all kind of dumb, but Kyoko's particularly bad. Oh, they're good at fighting, but they aren't bright. And it's played up for laughs. This is more of a comedic take on the beat-em-up genre after all. I find the writing is actually very humorous, but humor is always subjective, so kind of beware of that. The story is also rather simple for this reason alone. Still, I think it works. The villains may be silly, but the threat of the entire city being under Sabu's control is still a worthwhile threat to our heroes. Overall, I think the writing is actually improved. The first game ended on a joke of sorts, and it didn't really feel like there was much of a threat at the end of the day. So I'm actually all here for there being an actual threat. I'm all for humor, but with it being subjective, I feel the ending to the last game, while it worked, it could have been seen as a negative. So I'm kind of glad they went with this route and made the threat a lot more impactful. One thing I absolutely loved about the original game was the look of the game was sprite-based artwork. And the music. Well, let's discuss the looks here first. This game looks identical to the previous game at first. The enemy types all return for the most part, but there's new areas and new enemies, so that's kind of good. The boss fights all look unique and interesting, and the character portraits when you're actually talking to the characters look just as good too. Overall, I think this game looks as good, if not better, than the first, which is a plus. But the real thing I want to discuss is the sound. Oh my gosh. This soundtrack is better than the first game. There, I said it. I love some of these tracks. Get Off My Lawn, Better Than You, River City Girls Anthem. Love all of these. Honestly, you can unlock a lot of this music that plays in your various bases around the city as well. So that's kind of nice. The mall theme, Better Than You, is stuck in my head so often though. Man, I cannot get enough of it, frankly. The River City Anthem, made by guest composers The Microphone Misfits, sounds really damn good as well. And I love this as a hip-hop track. As for Get Off My Lawn, it plays in the Lost Woods style area, which is new to this game, and I find it to be somewhat funny and a guilty pleasure. Hell, the track playing when the, end credits roll, and even the credit scene itself had me laughing a bit. This game is great, and the voice acting is okay too. None of the characters sound bad, despite using a lot of YouTubers for a lot of the side characters, like Mac McMuscles, for example, as a skeleton character. Jacksepticeye works well as this character once more, Gota. But the playable characters are played by professional voice actresses and actors, and they do a really good job too. So when talking about the gameplay, this game is just a straight up beat 'em up, which, you wander around an open world and beat up everything that moves. It's pretty simple. You have combos that you can do, but just mashing the buttons works well as well. There's a light attack, a heavy attack, and special attacks, which are fun. The special attacks need a gauge, by the way. You can jump and do jumping attacks, which is nice, and you can run and possibly do running attacks as well. You can also stomp on enemies that are on the ground. The only real issues I had from the first game was that there were too many times that I wasn't exactly lined up, pixel to pixel with the enemies. This caused me to miss enemies that were right there. Well, this doesn't happen much here. There were a few misses every so often. Basically, I would push the controller a different direction, and the character wouldn't turn around, but that didn't happen all that often either. If the opponent is close by you, you no longer have to be pixely perfect lined up to hit the opponent. This is a huge improvement. You can also do some shopping while wandering the city. Yes, you can buy items, either food or accessories. What's that? Accessories in a game about girls? Hey, these bras give you some interesting powers for sure. My favorite accessories were the wool socks, which every so often would make a heavy attack hit with electricity. Doing this would not only at times spread to other enemies, but could actually basically cause you to infinitely combo a poor enemy. Wow, that sucks. It must really be humiliating to not be able to even attack back. It isn't broken though, but it was very helpful for sure. Other things include an accessory that makes more money dropped, healing by destroying opponents, and much more. Meanwhile, food just heals you and gives you a small boost to one stat. I use food to mostly heal, but you can stack the stats, I think? They aren't permanent boosts though. Lastly, you have some new characters. You can play as the girls as well as their boyfriends if you want to play as one of the guys. They were unlockable in the last game, so that does make sense. I ended up playing as one particular girl, as this allows you to gain more experience much faster. And I had her at a pretty high level, which helps a lot. Leveling up will not only heal you, but boost stats permanently, so that's awesome. The characters aren't too different though. Some of the characters are faster, some are stronger. Hell, one of the unlockable characters, Marion, is slow, but hits like a truck. However, they all have similar button layouts and combos. While the stat layouts aren't too different, it helps keep the characters feeling different enough to want to use them for sure, and, experiment with the characters. Find the character that works for you. Of course, I played as Misako, though. I played as her entirely through the first game, so I'm pretty used to her playing style, which again is part of the reason why I leveled her up really, really high. One issue, as small as it was in the last game, was that in some of these levels, the game was a beat 'em up, but the game suddenly wanted you to do platforming. This isn't great. It doesn't happen here as often, though, and a few times it does. It was just for a collectible nearby. Yep, they improved that aspect as well. The world feels more open and connected as well, compared to the first game, despite the premise. The first game still felt a bit linear at times. This time it doesn't feel that way at all. The enemy types from the first game do return though, but it does add a few new ones as you move along, which is pretty awesome. They all have different attack patterns and abilities. Yeah, this is really good. One thing that I never really did in these games is recruiting enemies when they beg for help. Hey, look, I needed the money. However, one thing you can do is hire people to help you out too. Special characters dot the map that you can hire for additional attacks, though your recruits can be damaged, so beware of that. Damage too often and your recruit will feel the job just isn't worth the money anymore. And yes, you have to pay money for these characters, but it's not too much. Also, each level or area does have a base as well. You can change characters, heal, rest up, or listen to music here, which is nice. You can also hide away in stores dotting the landscape as well. Each area has a big boss fight and some missions to, get to that boss. While most areas just have random enemies spawn in, sometimes you have to do something specific like fight a number of enemy types or collect something. fixing generators, breaking coin machines. Hell, I had to go Ghostbusters on some ghost peppers at one point. There is at least some variety here. Take the beach, for example. You have to bulk up your muscles, then throw crates on a moving ship to get disguises, and then find key cards, all while fighting enemies in said disguises. Then the boss fights are all different too. Blair the Witch uses magic and 20-sided dice to attack, which is definitely interesting, though there's a lot of visual noise here. This cyber girl with her shield was kind of annoying as well, but it makes sense that she wouldn't fight directly. She's a social media tycoon after all. The chef fights you on live TV with quick interviews breaking up some of the action, while he hits you with knives, spices, and a large boom. Ken is annoying though. You have to fight him twice, and he just uses guns and his goons, which is kind of annoying. His second fight is the toughest in the game too, with how much there is going on. The helicopter though and Sabu, they're actually a lot easier for some reason, but Sabu uses tactics for most of the other boss fights, so yeah, maybe I was just familiar with him? I don't know. I only took one try with him, while most of the bosses took two at least. But, you know, he had his own moves every so often, so there was that. Now, of course, there's also reason to explore these areas as well. There's a few side quests like this dodgeball minigame or this volleyball minigame, but there are bigger ones too. There's finding the cats all over the places, find some photo situations, and finding tarot cards and blueprints. The blueprints were interesting as they, took me to places I didn't even know you could get to. And this was towards the end of the game when I thought I explored everywhere. These long-range side quests get you some really good money and some accessories as well, which is awesome. The only thing I wish was that there was some map feature to help. Oh wait, there is a map feature, and I just didn't notice through about, half the game. The rooms on the map that are purple are cleared. The pink ones are not. Okay, I get it now, but what's the deal with this room here? The pawn shop here doesn't seem to want to clear no matter what I do. Is there something here? Oh, after what seems like forever, I found it. There is a hidden room with a golden ticket in every area. These unlock special characters that you can hire to aid you. Get all the rooms and you get this cat robot character. That's fun. Seems like there's something to do in every corner, even if it's a Nord-style detective side quest. Overall, I'll say the game isn't exactly perfect, but for what it is, this game is super fun. This is a beat-em-up spin-off with comedic elements all over the place. The story and writing are decent, the gameplay is simple but fun, and the levels are simple but open world with some variety for good measure. The secrets and side quests are rewarding, and the charm is easily the best part of the game. Yeah, well, this game could have been better. There aren't really any huge flaws either. This game might actually go down as a masterpiece. A 10 out of 10, which is great. Man, I'm giving a lot of 10s out lately. First Resi 2 and now this, huh? Well, overall though, this is a simple but fun indie title that, while lacking the AAA development, is still great at the end of the day. But that's all the time I have for this particular game. If you like the review, liking, subscribing, and hitting the bell really does help my channel along. Next we meet, I'll be looking into, Tomb Raider, or Zelda, or Pinball, but it might be Tomb Raider. Or it might be Legends Arceus Pokemon, for all I know. I've been playing the crap out of that game lately. I guess we'll see. Until then, my minions, take care. Bye-bye.